Okay, let's get this started then. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Leading in Challenging Times, the final Focus Core webinar of 2022. Thank you to so many of you for signing up, and I really hope that you enjoy this event. We have three really interesting speakers who are business leaders here in Tokyo, and I'm very much looking forward to their presentation. Brief introduction, I'm Jonathan Kant. I'm a senior consultant doing executive search here at Focus Core. With me are Cyrille Flamant, who is the CFO of Veolia Japan. Good evening, Cyrille. Suguru Kawashima, CFO of Findy Inc. Good evening, Suguru.
Hi.
Hi there. And Pascal Gerbert-Gaillard, who's the country manager of SES-imagotag. Hi, Pascal.
Hi, everyone.
So the presentations will be accounts of professional and personal experiences of leading in challenging times. That will take up about the first half of the event. And then for the second half, we'll tackle the questions that everyone has very kindly sent through. And thank you very much for that. Hopefully we'll get through as many as we possibly can, and I'm looking forward to it. So to get us started, Cyrille, if you'd like to kick us off.
Sure. So good evening, everyone. I'm Cyrille Flamant, as Jonathan said, CFO for Veolia Japan. So I've been with Veolia for 15 years, started in France as merger and acquisition manager. I've been lucky enough to travel the world for Veolia, buying companies, selling companies, doing reorganization and project finance. Took over first CFO position in France for a wastewater treatment plant construction contract, already together with SUEZ at that time, before moving to North America. I've been the CFO of Veolia Canada for 4 years, and then moved to Boston, and I've been the CFO of the hazardous waste business for North America. Let me share my screen. All right. So I was the CFO of the haz waste business in North America in 2021 when I was proposed the role of CFO for Japan. So obviously accepted that challenge, and my family and I left Boston early July 2021 with the expectation to go back to France to spend a few weeks of vacation with friends and family we hadn't seen for quite some time before heading to Japan. Hopefully mid-August, get settled, organize school start in September, and for me to take over my new role. Unfortunately, and as everybody knows, the COVID made it a little bit more complicated, and the border was closed at that time. Our hope was that the border would reopen immediately after the end of the Olympic Games, but unfortunately didn't happen. Obviously had some ups and downs with some hope sometime in November 2021 when there was a short window, which unfortunately I missed. And so finally had to wait until March 2022 to actually get to Japan. Long story short, means that I stayed 9 months in France, managing a team that I had never met, with 7 to 8 hour time difference, and with obviously Japanese employees with different cultures, sometimes limited English capabilities, and so made it quite difficult for me to take over that new role, not only because I had to get up early, 2, 3 a.m. in the morning in order to have real working days with my team and colleagues, but also very challenging to to create a team spirit with your team members, and also to integrate yourself into a new management team. So difficult from a professional standpoint. However, after 2 years of COVID, people are a little bit more used to video conferences and online meetings. So it's been manageable, and anyway, you need to adapt and make it work. But also very difficult was the personal part of it. We've been living on temporary housing, Airbnb-like apartment in Paris for 9 months without our stuff that were still somewhere in the US, and you also need to deal with the family uncertainty and struggle, find a school last minute for your kids, and it's quite difficult for everybody in the family to navigate through that uncertainty. So, as I said, difficult from a personal standpoint, but also from a professional one. We obviously all had difficult times. So did our companies during COVID, but also all the global uncertainty due to the COVID, the war, the rising commodity prices, and so on. And so I'm just going to focus on one very specific example that we faced at Veolia Japan during the year 2022. As everybody knows, electricity prices, both for companies and for individuals, have gone up quite significantly in Japan during the end of 2021 and 2022. The price of electricity in Japan is actually made of 4 components: the base tariff, the consumption tariff, the fuel surcharge, and the renewable energy tax. The fuel surcharge part is a very variable part of the price based on commodity price for oil, LNG, and coal. And due to 1, devaluing yen, 2, rising commodity prices, well, the Japan electricity prices went through the roof. At Veolia Japan, we have some of our businesses for which we are exposed to electricity prices with no automatic pass-through to customers. So very early on in 2022, we considered potential options to limit that risk. And so we've been brainstorming internally, but also with some of our partners, trying to think differently, think out of the box. And together with the SMBC, we managed to implement a hedging, so very specific commodity swap that was built by SMBC to specifically cover the Japan fuel surcharge risk. At the time we implemented it at the end of Q1 2022, the price of that swap looked quite high compared to historical prices and even the price at the end of Q1. But definitely after a few months and looking at the futures and the probable electricity prices for the next few months, it was a valuable decision. So during those challenging times, I think that it is definitely very important to get ideas from everybody, your partners, and also to make sometimes courageous decisions, but that can end up being very beneficial for the organization. Right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Cyrille. That was really, really interesting, and obviously to hear the 2 sides of your experience, both personal and professional. And obviously on the professional side, the FX issues and the fuel surcharge issues, as well as commodity prices. Obviously, you're having to manage through a perfect storm of all sorts of challenges. So thank you very much for sharing your experiences. Okay, so Sugu, it's your turn to give us your presentation, and looking forward to hear what you have to say.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen? Okay. Hi, thank you for joining our session today. For my part, I'm going to talk about how I tackle my career and some of my finance perspectives from my startup points of view. Then I want to connect to key takeaways from my learning over the past few years, okay? First, let me share my career journey. My career began as accountant at KPMG doing audit and accounting advisory work. However, throughout my professional life, I wanted to find out how well my skills would work in a business firm. So I decided to change my job. After I joined Recruit, I was seconded to Indeed, and my job changed to M&A and PMI as a corporate development. In 2017, I moved to America as an expert. When COVID hit the world in 2020, I was still in America. As an Indeed corporate development manager, I was in charge of M&A and the PMI project. Obviously, investment slowed down, and 3 years had passed since I moved to the US at the time. Headquarters Recruit Holdings decided that I should go back to Japan. It made me think about the next career because 5 years had passed after I joined Recruit Holdings, and I thought when unexpected things happen, I could do nothing by myself. As long as I'm just a member level, even though I wanted to work in the US more, I had to follow the company's decision. So I wanted to get more experience controlling over my own destiny. That is why I got interested in working for startups to get closer to growing the business. Okay, so let me share 3 things I considered when I changed the job under this current serious situation. One is business, the next is management, the last is global. First, I wanted to take the business industry I am familiar with or interested in. Because if you don't know the business industry well, you cannot work with the CEO or management team closely. I don't want to be like just a finance specialist guy in the company. The next is management. When I acquired some startups as a corporate development manager, my issue was that I had no management experience. So it was hard for me to consider what the acquired company's management was thinking. This is one of my insecurities. That is why I was looking for some companies which there's a possibility I can become a management side. Okay, then last point is global. I wanted to lead a global project by myself. So looking for the company which has already expanded their business to the global market, or there's a possibility of going to global from scratch. Considering those 3 points, I found my current company, Findy, and joined last April. By the way, Findy is now Series C funding, and then basically we are helping software engineers find job opportunity and using the algorithm matching technology. Yeah, yeah. This is the my career journey. Then next topic is I'd like to share some sort of finance challenges in the startup environment under this current circumstances. This slide doesn't exactly show the startup's finance situation, but in 2021, profitability, not revenue growth, has a higher correlation to positive stock returns in the software sector for the first time in 4 years. So what is my point is that it shows the recent trends answering the typical question, do public market investors prefer profitability or growth? Some people say the investor interest has changed and the SaaS bubble is over. Until recently, everyone focused on the SaaS business model and said the most important thing was the sales growth rate. PSLs were getting bigger and bigger. But now some investors say different things. In short, investors are back to the valuing profitability instead of revenue growth. Seems like a big change, but given the history, I think it's the same as before. Some people say that now it is not a good time to raise funds. While that may be true, the reality is that good companies are raising money and the others are not. I think nothing has changed in its nature. Yeah, my point is that we should not be too swayed away by the market and focus on the growing our business under all circumstances. Of course, the timing of cash burnout is important. CFO is needed to do more than just manage financial numbers. They need to strategize to grow the business and control the financing as much as possible. Many things cannot be predicted, so we consider assumptions, look at the market, and do funding when we can, all at once. So in our case, we were fortunate to close our Series C funding in April of this year. At the time, we were concentrating on finishing the fundraising as quickly as possible with the growth of our business as our top priority. As a result, we were able to complete our fundraising activity at a good time. So we don't need to rush into the next round at the moment. I think it will take a couple of years for the economy to recover. Therefore, we will concentrate on growing our business by investing the money we raised for a while. Okay, this is my last presentation part. Now, it's the recent 3 years a very special uncommon situation? I think maybe not. Since a decade ago, Lehman shock happened. Something is happening on a regular basis. In simply fact, it is normal for things to happen that we don't know about. What is needed in an era when unpredictable things happen is the same for both organizations and individuals, I think. The essence of the ability to deal with change is the same as ever. So you may have heard of this term, VUCA, stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, which was introduced in 1987 to describe the unfortunate post-Cold War situation. Over time, the term VUCA has come to be used in a variety of fields, including business now. Now this term has been reworded. The new VUCA is said to be vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. The idea is that we can overcome volatility with vision, uncertainty with understanding, complexity with clarity, and ambiguity with agility. What we don't know is what we don't know. So if we do not know the future, how we create the future is more important. So in the age of VUCA, we need speed to repeatedly test hypotheses and derive appropriate solutions in a changing environment. So you have no choice but to grow yourself. So you must ask yourself whether you are growing or not. The environment you are in is critical to your growth. So if you feel comfortable now for your current situation, I think it might be the time to change. So that's a kind of my point of view from career change. I hope my story is helpful to your next journey. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Suguru. Yeah, it's an interesting lesson. If you're too comfortable, maybe it's time to move on. We're going to move on now ourselves, actually. We've got Pascal coming up to deliver our third presentation of the evening. So Pascal, if you'd like to take it away.
Thanks, Jonathan. So a good transition, and thanks to you for risk. And I'm pretty much saying the same thing, and not to get too comfortable, but in any case, you know, risk is happening. Change will happen. That's life. So you have to learn to deal with it and see the good side of it. It's like a double-sided coin. Weiji, as we say in Chinese, is, you know, it's risk and opportunity. It's two faces of the same coin. So you have to take the good part of it and try to make the best of it, of a difficult situation. And I think that's everything we've been talking about. What happened with COVID? It's a risk. It's a black swan. Hello. Can you hear me?
Everything okay, Pascal?
Everything is not okay. So you see, risk and opportunity. I think I ran out of battery. So
okay.
sorry about this, guys. Let's adapt. So, meaning I won't have my presentation, but let me do it live. So, I would take 3 points. Discuss first about my personal situation, then the company, and what I see. What can we do for the teams? How can we adapt in these uncertain times? So, who am I? I'm coming from a retail background. I've been in Japan on and on for 15 years, been working for, notably as of late, a retail company called Biosebon, starting it from scratch in Japan in 6 years ago, as of today, as a matter of fact, and grew it from 0 to 27 stores. From there on, the COVID hit, notably very hard, 2021, and the company had to make changes, especially the mother company in France, went bankrupt. So following that, I decided to reorient my career, still in the same time, but serving retail to help adapt retail to the new challenges. And that's how I went to the current company I'm with, which is called SES-imagotag, which is the world leader for in-store retail digitization. So that company, and I'm sorry, I won't have a slides to show you, but SES-imagotag, you have the link in my bio. We can connect on Indeed if you're interested. This is a company which has been at the right time, at the right moment, after having spent 30 years developing a solution. So you have to be ready for when those black swans happen. So what do? We provide electronic shelf systems, e-labels, labels which enable a price basically to be displayed not on a paper tag, but on electronic tags. So this is the basic service. And based on that, you can do a lot of things for your customers. You can communicate with the customers. You can change the prices. You can basically digitize the whole store, which would enable your physical store to become kind of an omni-channel, linking with your e-commerce and enabling all kind of better operation within your retail environment, the physical retail environment, and better link with your sales. And this trend has actually been totally disrupted. The retail environment has been totally disrupted by the COVID. So what happened in 2019 was a game changer that not many people had predicted. And we were positioned at the right time, at the right moment. So to give you some figures, the company currently, as I said, was founded 30 years ago, just entered the Japanese market 5 years ago. On a worldwide scale, 10 years ago, we were making 20 million USD revenue. When COVID hit, so end of 2019, we were at 300. This year, we will close at 610. And we just announced our 5-year plan, which is so 2.2 billion US dollars worldwide revenue. So extremely, extremely strong growth because COVID has been speeding up all this digital transformation. And this is needed more than ever for sustainability purposes, for linking people together to preserve also jobs, to make things more efficient. So the thing is for you as a person, as well as the company you're going to choose or you're going to found, is how can you follow, see the trends, build a base, and benefit or try to leverage as much as you can these black swans which are happening. So what I see as a good thing for the company from a business perspective was actually very detrimental from a staff building perspective. I joined the company when nobody could come over. From all the experts we had from France, from the US, could not come. I had one person on the ground. I had 5 people stuck everywhere in the world, and we had customers to serve. We had partners to train. We had solutions to bring, and nobody on the ground. So how did we do that? We had to adapt. We had to rebuild relationship without being able to bring our traditional customers into face-to-face meetings. So getting used to new way of doing, building areas where we can safely exchange free flows of IDs. And that could be also demo centers, office with proper security measures, but still need to do that. So we built and developed ways for online presence and physical presence, using the best of both worlds. During that time, recruiting staff was complicated, obviously. What I found interesting is that a lot of the physical barriers we had, working from home, everything blew away with COVID. Maybe went a little bit overboard, and now we're finding a good balance as to how much time do we need to spend in office and with the client's physical one, and how much we should spend at home trying to be maybe more efficient. From a personal perspective, that led me the possibility to get more organized. I was with the staff, doing back-to-back meetings, managing actually 3 different jobs at the same time. So which is becoming now more complicated with the traveling. But I would say, if you can be flexible enough, you will find a way. You will communicate that way with your staff, with your customers. You will share the vision, and you will be able to make a successful imprint in your business. So I am again very, very much sorry for the PC running out of. I'm traveling, but free to take any questions. Jonathan, maybe off to you on that one.
Thank you very much, Pascal. I mean, it's kind of fitting that in a discussion about challenging times, we should have a challenging time actually affect us in the midst of the webinar itself. So I guess thank you for delivering us that experience, Pascal. And also thank you for riding that particular wave as well. I think we've done very well to keep you on the call, presentation or no. So thank you very much for that, and looking forward to hearing your contributions as we move now into the Q&A. And just to kind of summarize this, we asked participants when they signed up to give a question if they wanted to, and we had some very, very interesting topics. And I'm looking forward to hearing what the guys have to say in response. Lots of the questions have been to do with talent management, actually, and that's the first question that we have. So, Cyrille, the question was, in your view, what role and actions can leaders take to increase employee retention?
Thank you for the question. So, I mean, obviously, attracting and retaining talents is a constant challenge, and probably even more in Japan, because I mean, there is talent scarcity on the market with aging population. So I guess our role as leaders is to listen to our employees and understand their expectations. And what we've seen is that definitely the expectations and the priorities of our employees have changed with COVID. So I think that there's probably two very important things today. The first one being the work-life balance, and the second one being the expectation from people to make a difference and contribute to a better world. On the first part, the work-life balance, I mean, obviously with COVID, and as Pascal mentioned, everybody learned to work from home, and especially here in Japan, and moreover in the Tokyo area, commute time can be can be quite a killer, with people spending an hour to an hour and a half or more one way to get to the office. And so working from home makes quite a difference. We can see a lot of employees who don't want to go back to the old-fashioned 5 days a week, long working hours in the office. So we need to adapt the work environment. We need to digitalize our processes in order to offer that better work-life balance to our employees. On the second part, as I said, I think that more and more people and employees are expecting to contribute to making the world a better place. The traditional work expectation or motivation of money, career path changed a little bit. And so I also strongly believe that for companies to communicate on their purpose, as well as the actions that they implement for the society, the planet, their employees, is becoming increasingly important versus the traditional way of focusing on shareholders and clients.
Thank you very much, Cyrille. That's great. I think that's a really comprehensive answer. And we have a couple more questions on talent management further down, so we may revisit this topic in a second. Let's move on to the next question, which came through. So what was the most challenging situation that the speakers faced, and how were they able to overcome it? So perhaps Suguru, if you'd like to start by answering that yourself.
Okay, thanks for the interesting question. My most challenging things is when I moved to the US, when I was at Recruit Holdings. I changed country. I changed my role, and from accountant to M&A investment. I changed the language, for my work. I'm not a specialist of M&A then, and I have never lived in a different country. So I was studying English and dreamed to work abroad. However, it was really tougher than I thought, actually. So I could not speak fluently English then, even now. I could understand maybe only 30 to 40% what they spoke when I moved to the US. So to survive, I gave up to aim for an excellent achievement in a shorter term. So I looked for anything I could do, regardless of my role. Any works are fine. So I just wanted to my colleagues to think Suguru is useful. That was my start. So this mentality helps, after I changed my career to startups now. So now I feel, everyone is Japanese, I can communicate well. So even though, I change the environment, or always, I try to, firstly, I don't need to see the kind of big home run, the first. I need to do, even though it's a very small task, it's okay. I need to do the small things to kind of for the, my colleagues to think about, I am useful first. So anyway, yeah, these are my challenging.
Thank you, Suguru. Pascal, perhaps you'd like to share your most challenging experience, if you don't mind.
Too many to to go into detail. So I choose one maybe related to our listeners, mostly in Japan, I guess. It was when I was appointed for Biosebon, as I said. So the company, I won't get too much into detail, but the company was here in Japan, a JV, 50-50 JV. So 50-50 JV is just like a marriage, right? You have to go and sit around the table when you're not happy, because otherwise it's divorce. So how you get to make decisions with people having very, very different outcome. And I was put basically in the middle of this after the company was created, and without being given any formal power, being sent by the French side to act as their representative into the JV to make the things moving forward, but without any formal position of power into the company, and being sent as the eye of Moscow to spy on people without being properly announced. So when I arrived in Japan, the team thought that I was here for the opening of our first store, and then 10 days after, just to cut cheese, and then I was to go back to France, just like that. So I had to explain, make my position actually, prove, just like Suguru said as well, useful to the Japanese team, so that they didn't feel that I was a spy, but I was an asset, and I was able to help them do and progress and manage their targets, which they had a real hard time with because they couldn't properly communicate with the French team, and they had very different mindset, outlooks, and expectations on both sides of the fence. So being, let's say, forced to rely more on value, on bringing value, being really a team player, bringing everybody together, because I didn't have at the beginning any formal authority, was really useful. And I think that that's really what contributed to the success of the company in Japan in the long run.
Thanks, Pascal. Okay, let's move on to the next question, which is about scaling your business. So obviously, Pascal, you've been involved in a number of operations where that's been an issue. So yes. How can you scale your business and reach more Japanese companies was the question that was asked.
Yeah, if you look, if you Google me, you'll find that I made a 1-hour podcast only on how to scale your business. So thanks.
That's a great plug. Maybe we can share that after the link afterwards. Yeah.
Thanks. So there are many ways, depends on the industry you're in. First, the way there are direct channels and indirect channels. M&A, I think Cyrille would talk also a lot about how Veolia expanded in Japan, which is a very interesting case in point for me. The way I found the most efficient is you need to, in any case, establish a base. You need to have a base, you need to have 4 people, you need to control your message, you need to control the DNA of your company and control the product. You need to control that part. And then after that, Japan is a huge market, very established channels in a way, which you can disrupt in some ways, but you cannot fight them frontally. There's no way you're going to be successful if you do that. So you have to play with the rules somehow, bend them a little bit, but just don't break them. So how can you use the existing channels? How can you build the partnerships? How do you foster those partnerships? How do you access the right level? It could be, banks. It could be other players. It could be the Suguru, but you need to discuss with those people because they have the means, they have the resources, they have the credibility, and especially as a startup, especially a foreign startup, you're coming in, nobody knows you. Why would they trust you? Why would they believe in your product? You have no track record whatsoever in the Japanese market. You might be, and that's our situation as of now for SES-imagotag in Japan. You might be the world leader. You may have 50% of the world market share. You'll be the number one, the most innovative one, but you're number 7 in Japan right now. So, Japan is different. So how do you leverage big system integrators, in my case right now, big leasing companies right now, to access all of their clients, because we provide something that other competitors actually cannot provide. But it's just that those top clients, top CEOs for digital transformation haven't had the ability or the possibility to access our information. So go to the top, explain the value you're bringing. At the same time, so go through the bottom, get the people familiar with your solution because they will be the one executing. So do both of this approach, build an ecosystem around you, people who are going to vouch for you. And then once you have your, 360 degrees kind of support network in place and approach very well steady, you will see that the market, you will start delivering small products. And then if you perform, you will really reach scale quickly. So that has proven for me very useful and approach in 3-4 cases. And that's why I try to replicate with different partners in my several different positions.
It doesn't sound too far actually from the experiences that we have in the recruitment industry, actually, where we are, making ourselves known in the market. Focus Core is obviously a smaller business in a very saturated market, you might say, and finding the clients comes from the relationships, I think. So that's definitely important to be to be known is one thing, but to be trusted is much more vital. I feel so. Yeah, I think that's a really good lesson for all of us. Thank you very much, Pascal.
Yeah, I think
Suguru, go on.
Yeah, one of my takeaways, what I realized that, compared to the US market, I think in Japan, the offline communication is more important to make a, build a relationship. I think it's not only Japan, also in Asian countries. Maybe there's some history, background, I think. So that's why in Japan still, we say kind of communication, right? The communication with drinking, also, meeting offline. So even though we are a little bit far away from an online offline communication, but now, COVID is getting, close to over. Now offline communication is restarted, right? So we feel offline communication now very important to, make a good relationship. So
yeah,
I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, I think I interrupted you, Suguru.
No.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think it's really true. Thank you very much, both of you, for your responses to that question. Okay, so back to talent management, really, and this is for you, Cyrille. Do you have any thoughts on reducing employee burnout and increasing productivity?
Okay. Well, I guess I partly touched on it already, but I think that the work-life balance is really key for both productivity and reducing burnout and or stress. Japan has a history of long working hours plus long commute, and definitely, I mean, work flexibility improves employee satisfaction and, as a consequence, employees' productivity. I guess another point is that Japan ranks at the very bottom of the developed countries when it comes to the number of days of vacation taken by employees every year. Japanese employees actually get provided with a reasonable number of vacation days, but they take very few of them. But part of the reason is that people don't feel comfortable taking some days off, and I also have some examples in my team of people who haven't taken vacation for the last 3 years. So I think that as leaders, it is our duty to actually build the environment for people and employees to feel safe, to take some time off. And there are so many studies that have been done on that around the world, in which clearly demonstrate that taking some time off, taking some time for yourself and for your family definitely helps with productivity. So it is personally one of my objectives for next year, to create that environment of trust and make sure that in the team people feel comfortable to take some time off.
I think that's a huge issue. I've heard of companies which have actually had schemes that reward employees for taking time off by giving more time off. I think Deloitte did something a few years ago where you had like a couple of bonus days that you were given if you actually showed that you were taking leave. Possibly some other companies as well, but it's definitely important to take time off. Yeah.
Right, and to your point, I mean, when I was in the US, there were more and more startup companies actually implementing unlimited time off. So basically leaving the decision to people on how much time they need, and basically judging people on their performance rather than number of days or hours they spent at work.
Great, thank you. All right, so let's move back to you, Suguru. What lessons have you learned because of the pandemic?
Okay, I think this pandemic led people to really think why we are working for what, why we need to come to the office, why communication is important. Like, reasons are being questioned for things that used to be taken for granted so far. For our company, we discussed those things with management a lot and repurposed our vision and mission last year. Then we keep telling what we do, why we are growing our business, for what society, why the culture is important, something like that. So now I think transparency is very, very important. So, when the Pascal said, that now we realize that real communication is important, but management have to kind of disclose why you need to come to the, why the communication is important, why come to the office is important, something like that. So that's why, yeah, we are disclosing, why real communication is necessary and how we build our culture together. So this kind of, very kind of lessons we have learned from the pandemic, I think.
This actually connects, thank you very much, Suguru. This connects with another question that was sent in by one of the latest signups, which is to do with the kind of balance of going to the office, working from home, open seating, all this kind of thing. And in terms of financially justifying office space and work from home flexibility, that's obviously a hot topic right now. Cyrille, do you have any remarks about that? Obviously, your office is a big office with lots of staff. In terms of the flexibility of working from home versus the actual cost of working in the office.
So yeah, I mean, obviously we have over 9,000 people in Japan. So obviously not everybody working in the office. We have a lot of employees working at our customers' facilities, on site, etc. However, we still have quite a big office here in Tokyo, and as every other company, I mean, we've been there thinking about, okay, how do we manage that office space? Do we still need that much space, or can we manage our growth with the exact same space? And what do we need to do? I think that Pascal was touching on that a little bit earlier. We can probably manage to grow within the same footprint, however, not with the same display. Definitely we're trying to push the flexible office, meaning that people do not have a dedicated office. They can come to work and put their computer on whatever free desk is available. And that also creates an environment to work with different people, interact with other employees you would normally, or in the old-fashioned work environment, not have interacted with. So that I think definitely contributes. Probably difficult to completely get to work from home. Definitely not something that we want. Actually, what we've defined as the new normal is at least 2 days per week in the office. So still leaves people the opportunity to work 3 days a week from home, which I believe is pretty nice. However, for team building, networking, innovation, we strongly believe that having people come to the office sometime per week, and obviously people who want to come more can, but some balance between work from home and work from the office is what we're trying to achieve.
Before we kicked off the webinar, Pascal, you had a few remarks about this, if you want to share.
So I was jokingly saying that I was actually expanding my office space and not reducing it. because it's important to create. I mean, culture is not something created on Zoom, basically. So if you want to create intuitive personae, so that the link between the people, you need to share experiences. So those experiences mostly happen in physical space, and so you need to bring people together into an area. Now, as Cyrille also was pointing, the office which we had until now is not the office of the future. It's not the office which we need now, because people have taken different habits, because the way we work is no longer in silo. It's far much more fluid. So you need to change the way, the seating is arranged, the kind of area, collaborative area. You may want also to have time to do calls, so you need to have a quiet space also to think. You need to have maybe phone booth to be able to discuss without just like disrupting the work of others. There are also issues with confidentiality, and you may want also to bring people to the office and share a good time, maybe with the clients, showcase some of your products. In one of my other offices, we had a rooftop, we had barbecue, and everybody tends to come for a good beer and a good barbecue, and then you start discussing products, you start making things. So I do believe the office is there to stay, but you have to adapt it to the 21st century. You have to sit, you have to find a way to bring people. It's the same, just come back also to the business, but in retail, it's the same. Why would people go to a physical store if they can buy online? What is the value you're providing, which will get the client to come to the store and say, I'm going because I'm getting something else. It can be, advice. It can be finding something exclusive to the store. There are many, many reasons. And I approach the case of the office like I would do for retail. You need to bring something else.
Great, thank you. There's a question that I'd like to focus on with the three of you, if possible, which is about planning for crisis. So the question, and this is not an easy question to answer, but the question that was asked is, how can we plan to make management decisions upon times of crisis, or even when times of crisis hit? So Suguru, perhaps would you like to share a couple of thoughts about that?
For the crisis?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think now, there's so many unexpected things. And for our management team, we weekly, we are discussing about, we are putting so many kind of hypotheses on the precisely what comes next. But of course, then we are doing a retrospective, daily, weekly, monthly. Once something changes, we need to change the hypothesis and the precises again. So this kind of, learning cycle, we are doing it quickly. So that's why once we do that kind of cycle, every day, every week, every month, it's easier to, realize what comes next. Then we can do that kind of proper, management decisions, I think. So it's not easy things, but otherwise, management cannot do, any good guidance to the employees and to the world. So I'm not answering question, but yeah, this is what we are doing.
No, I think it's a reasonable way to answer the question. Cyrille, how about you? What are your thoughts on planning for crises and how to manage through crises?
So I mean, obviously, planning is almost impossible. However, I mean, you always try to anticipate as much as you can, to build scenarios and action plans for each of them. I think that what's important as well is to train the management team to react to crisis. And to learn how different people will react in a crisis environment. Obviously, by definition, crisis has some kind of a sense of urgency. But I think that when it comes, it's important to take the time to collect as much information as you can, consider alternatives, and ultimately, which is what's expected from the leaders, make a decision. It's not necessarily going to be based on right or wrong, but much more on worse or better. Once that decision is made, I guess our duty is to execute and as mentioned by Suguru, to adapt to the moving environment.
Thanks. Right, Pascal.
Yeah, I think you can do risk management, which is something in a foreseeable environment, or you can build scenarios. The problem is what happens in case of black swan catastrophe, right? Like, it's something which is totally out of the expectations of anyone, or the World Trade Center, for example. So there is no planning. There is no planning against this. The only thing you can do is first, I believe, is redundancy. Having systems which are redundant, so that if something happens as part of a business, you can develop. You're having also autonomy as much as possible with the systems and the people. The ability to move and make decisions. So that means bringing responsibility also to the people, having them understand also what is key for your organization, your goal, what you try to achieve, so that if something really, that black swan comes up, you don't get everybody paralyzed at the same time. And in that sense, the traditional very pyramidal organization, I think it's still important on a day-to-day basis, but you need to build also rather independence or autonomy at the levels below, so that people can be able to make good decisions in time where maybe leadership, is not available, has been wiped out, or cannot be communicated. So that is really my takeaway from that one. It's right, what one philosopher was calling enlightened catastrophism. The catastrophe is about to come. It will happen. You don't know what will be, but you need to think what you could do without knowing what will happen.
Enlightened catastrophism. That's brilliant. Okay, I think we've got time for one more question that I'd like to hear all of your answers to. Obviously, we're at the end of the year, so it's a great question. What does your crystal ball say looking forward to 2023 and 2024? Will disruptions continue at the current level? So we've got a couple of minutes. Let's start with Cyrille. What are your thoughts on the next couple of years?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I would. But no, as you said, I mean, end of the year, everybody is starting to think about next year and in the more midterm future. I do believe that we're going to continue to see some unexpected. We definitely see the world changing quickly, and that is going to cause some disruptions. Definitely at different levels. I think that hopefully, as mentioned by Pascal before, we won't see a 9/11 major disruption. However, who knows? And that might affect commodities, markets, supply chain, everything. So we cannot plan for everything, but we definitely need to be prepared to react to anything. But absolutely, I do believe that some disruptions are on the way.
Suguru, your thoughts on this question?
Me neither. I don't have the crystal ball, but what we can do is we can be more flexible and adapt to the environment, right? So prepare for the unexpected things. So I think that what we discussed today is for the one of the discussion is of remote work versus kind of commuting to the office. I think the same, right? So now 5 days commute is not one way, right? Depending the purpose and the situation, we should take a full remote or hybrid or the commute to the office. So I think now we are very kind of flexible and seeing the situation, environment, we are taking a variety of the way. So I think we keep doing the kind of same, keeping this mindset.
Thank you. Pascal, quickly, do you have anything to add?
Sure. I do think we will see some keep on seeing big macro tensions. So FX rates will definitely slow down the economy overall, and we are at a fairly big risk. Having more unemployment, especially in the West, more failure for companies, even states, due to the increased interest rates. So that will put a lot of pressure. Then on the geopolitical front, also lots of uncertainties. So I think we have a kind of a roller coaster year, which is bound to happen, and not only next year, but in the coming years. So big trends coming up, climate change, etc. So it's not just next year. We will see more and more big issues coming up, and so we'll need more flexibility and resilient organizations. So be ready for change.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much to all of you. So yes, thanks, and thank you also to everybody for attending. It's been a really good session, and I've really enjoyed hearing the contributions of our 3 guest speakers, and really great to see such a good turnout for our final webinar of 2022. Just a closing remark, if of course anybody is looking for any support on both the career or recruitment side of things, don't hesitate to get in touch with me, and I'm at your service. I'm very happy to speak to you about whatever your needs may be. For now, though, all that remains is for me to thank everybody one more time for attending the webinar. I hope you've enjoyed the thoughts of our 3 speakers, and we look forward to seeing you again in 2023. Thank you.